Good morning. Today I'm in the Cartagena Military Museum on the southwest coast of Spain. This is somewhere I came to about 5 years ago, but it was shut. So I've got it all to myself today, which is fantastic. It's a beautiful site. It's a lovely old arsenal. So this is primarily an artillery museum, and you'll probably see that because of all the guns that are dotted all over the place. But it's got an amazing history as well. So Cartagena is a coastal city. It's quite a inland port in so much as it's surrounded by some bluffs which are perfect for kind of coastal defence. Strategically, it's been really important for the Spanish for years and years and years. The French wanted to go at it during the Napoleonic Wars. During the Civil War here, it stayed Republican until falling to the Nationalists right at the very end, and it's maintained kind of a strong military presence ever since. So the museum itself is quite special. Really not what I was expecting. Beautiful old building. You can see the courtyard I'm in at the moment, and I'll take us through to one of the galleries where they've got some beautiful World War II pieces. So welcome to the gun gallery, and this is probably their most beautiful exhibit. So this is a Sturmgeschütz 3. This was one of, I think, 8 that was sold by the Germans to Spain in the later days of the Second World War. The Sturmgeschütz is an assault gun. You've probably seen it before, but this one's lovely because they've opened it all up. So you might get in and have a look. So it's really quite a unique position to be in. We can look right down inside her and see some of the detail on the deck that we normally wouldn't see. It's a really, really nice piece. These were in service through to, I think, the 1950s, and they sold most of them to Syria, but I held on to a couple just for ceremonial purposes, and this beauty's stayed here ever since. So it's a really, really lovely piece. But I think the real sort of showstopper here is this is a T-26. So this is a Russian tank that was given to the Republican forces during the Civil War. The T-26 was basically the only player in town, so it became very popular for the Nationalists to try and capture. So about half of them were actually captured by the Nationalists. This is, again, it's a lovely piece. I've opened it right up for us. You can see how tiny this is and quite how primitive it is compared to what we think of a tank nowadays. But you can't underestimate how important these were to both sides, even though they may have actually been more of a morale effect rather than a military effect. We get to see right into the cupola there. You can see the quite interesting markings on it as well. The rest of the hull, it's got what we would know as a long tom American piece. So something really important to know about the effects on the military of the Spanish Civil War is immediately after, during the Spanish Civil War, most of their kit was German. So throughout this museum, we'll see loads and loads of bits of German equipment. Just for example, you can see an MG34 here. After the Civil War, Spain was pretty much isolated because of its fascist government. I mean, it wasn't until sort of the early 50s that they started trading with America, and they started bringing American stuff into their arsenal. So lots of their stuff kind of post-war was really shonky leftovers from the Civil War until they started to rearm with Americans' kit and locally produced kit that kept them going up until kind of the 1980s before they properly modernised. So this is the, as I say, this is the gun hall. It's a really, really lovely location. Loads of really interesting artillery pieces. Not really my thing, but nice to see. So as we get to the back of the facility, we've got some really interesting pieces again. And just as I was saying, this all goes back to their Second World War heritage. So here we've got a flat gun supplied by the Germans, and then the Spanish went on to make their own version of this under license, which was the FT-44. That's a lovely piece, and just a bit of contrast there. Whoop, there we go. Got a SAM missile taking us all the way up to kind of the 80s and that kind of technology. They've got an M44, which was an American self-propelled gun developed just after the Second World War, as the Americans wanted to get in on the act after they'd seen kind of the success the Germans had with self-propelled guns, and this was in service again right till the 80s. So that's a lovely piece too. The actual site itself is quite stunning. You've seen the courtyard. It's a great big military arsenal. In 1873, I think it was, there was a civil war within this region of Spain, and this facility was under siege for something like 6 months. And at one point, an artillery shell landed right in their arsenal, and it was a massive explosion, killed something like 400 people. So it's quite an interesting site in its own. So it's kind of split into the new levels, which we just had a quick look at, and a very old, beautiful building this. Look at these ceilings. And a very old part, which we'll just go into now, which has got some of the older parts of the collection and talks about the history of artillery and the history of this site going back through the ages. So as we go in, you can see we're in this absolutely beautiful old part of the building, like an old stately home. And it's got its own chapel as well, because this is a Catholic country. So this is quite beautiful. This is a model showing what this looked like before it got blown to pieces by the stray artillery round we were talking about. And this is a lovely model they've made, which shows Cartagena itself. So this is Cartagena and the port of Cartagena. So you can see there's the old castle up on the hill. You've got the actual docks and the city, and just where we are is just here at the back. Some lovely old halls here, and if I can just find, yeah, there we go. This will show you kind of what I meant about it being slightly inland. So this is the sea, and this is the mouth to the port of Cartagena, so you can see how easily defendable it is if you've got the right coastal artillery in place. And oh, it's gone all dark in here. But again, this is a 3D map that was made back in about 1934, believe it or not. I don't know if you can see it. But again, yeah, it's a bit better. This shows the mouth of the city of Cartagena. You can see all the high bluffs around it, making it perfect for artillery locations. And every war has its tragedies, whatever your politics. So this is a model of the Castilla or Olite, can't pronounce that. So this was a nationalist ship. So bear in mind, during the Civil War, Cartagena basically stayed Republican. It was captured just before the end of the war. And this was a nationalist troop ship with 2,000 troops on board that was approaching Cartagena, thinking it was in safe hands, but they were unaware that one of the artillery batteries either didn't get that message or was still harbouring Republican views, and it opened fire on them. And this is the 7th of March 1939, just before the end of the official war. And this is a list of the 1,500 casualties who were killed on that boat. Politics aside, it's a dreadful thing to have happened, but that's war for you. Just going further into the exhibition now, they've got a beautiful gallery of uniforms throughout the ages. So they've got everything here from kind of early uniform of their Foreign Legion all the way through to modern day uniform. It's very old school, you know, you don't see this kind of stuff thing in museums all that often now. And unfortunately the cases are all glass, so you're getting loads of reflections you can't see too well, but if you push through, I mean, have a look at this. This is a lovely kind of desert uniform with an explanation of all the different pieces of the uniform were. And we've even got what they're calling tropical uniform. So that's kind of Moorish kind of stuff. It's a lovely old gallery and well worth a look. And it goes right to modern day. And when I say modern day, they kind of top out around the 80s, 90s in reality. Some really interesting, oh, this is something I found really interesting. This is a selection of helmets used by the Spanish military. And what you'll see again is that a good portion of them look like German helmets, because a lot of their kit was German and they made a lot of German-esque copies of their own. Right to kind of modern day with UN stuff. Right, this is really interesting. So we've got a couple of massive galleries here that are dubbed the biggest collection of miniatures in the world according to the Guinness Book of Records. So I don't know the history of who made these, but there is an absolutely huge set of galleries of what you and I would call model armoured vehicles and stuff. There's a few little standouts here that really made me laugh. So who doesn't love every version of the Nazi flying saucer? That's pretty cool. Loads and loads of this, and you'll be amazed when you see the next gallery. And you've got everything here, from aircraft to ships to tanks to infantry. But and there's the next gallery of them. I won't take you through them all, but being a bit of a sucker for the Second World War, I absolutely loved some of the kind of weird war stuff and the later war stuff that you don't really see too often. Some of these were just prototypes, some of these never got off the ground, but just fascinating to look at. Yeah, really interesting gallery as well. He's done fortifications and emplacements. Bridges, reminds me of the old Airfix pontoon bridge. In fact, I think that is one. Now I look at it. We all have one of those. And dealing with just about every country you can think of. So there's Germany. There's just some nice old British stuff. I particularly like the old armoured cars here. There's some really kind of wonderful stuff that he's done. And it takes us right to kind of Afghan. Really good fun. First World War. British stuff, you know, all your Churchill funnies. Again, and their modern counterparts. And yet some of his desert camouflage as well. He's done a nice job on it, whoever the modeller and painter is. Lovely little Valentine just there. Beautiful. Yeah, lovely. Oh Christ, I didn't even see that. That's clearly bonkers. I think I've seen a German version of that in mine roller. I didn't think we had done one though. Or maybe that's just a concept piece. Japanese. And look at these. Again, I'm not into artillery, but you've got to admire the skill that puts together these massive railguns. Absolutely gorgeous. And that's it for the model gallery. I did like these as well. There's some beautiful old kind of Civil War thrown together armoured vehicles. And I do have an interest in the Spanish Civil War and their different factions. So seeing these vehicles is really quite a treat. So that's it for, oh, there's a fella. There you go. That's the fellow that made him. Francisco Sanchez Abril. And he's in the Guinness Book of Records. So that's not bad going, is it? Right, and this is the gallery. Coming close to the end now, they've got a lovely armament gallery, and this particularly took my fancy. They've got a really nice display of American stuff. So if we look at all the World War II classics, you've got the Garand rifle, the Tommy gun, the 911, Springfield, A little carbine there as well. So you've got a really, I've got Brown and Bar. You've got a really nice selection of American bits and pieces. Also, they've got some interesting submachine guns. So this looks like a Spanish rip-off of the MP40 or similar. They got a bunch of, yeah, the Irmas, yeah, MP35s. They've got some modern stuff that's not as interesting, but we're even here with a few versions of the Sten gun, which is really nice. And this is the German stuff again, MP28s. These are the really early kind of German submachine guns. Look at all that wood that they get rid of as manufacturing got far more complicated and their economy started to recede. And then there's a kind of a lovely machine gun selection as well. The whole selection of, you know, the ubiquitous 42, 34. Yeah, really nice selection of bits and pieces. Oh, rain gun just dumped up there for good measure. So again, it's a really interesting gallery. Oh, it's called the Little Russian one. I think we've seen these in Ukraine. So yeah, very, very interesting place. Nice little Brucey bonus for us here again, harking back to the Civil War. This is an Enigma machine, and according to the blurb, the Germans sold the early Enigma machine, the Ds, to the Spanish, which they used for the nationalist forces, which they used for encrypted communications throughout the war. They didn't want to give them the later versions, but this is what the Axis gave the nationalists. So again, it's just a big throwback to the Civil War and the links between Spain and Germany. And you've got to give it to the Spanish, they do love a bit of grandeur. So this is kind of the commanding officer's salon. How's that for a working desk? No mouse, no keyboard, just a ledger. Look at that. Beautiful bit of history. This is one of the other big displays here. There's all sorts of bits and bobs from, again, uniform, equipment, some firearms again, and there's a lovely model I think I showed you just a short time ago of what this facility used to look like before it got blown up. Again, the reflections are quite poor, but you can kind of get the idea of how magnificent this must have been. Quite spectacular. Oh, look at these old roofs as well. This really is a beautiful old building. I'm so glad they've kept it as they have. So now we're in the anti-aircraft section of the museum. Loads of nice stuff here. So you've got the American quad that we've seen. Kelly's Heroes is famous for this, mounted in a half track. Again, this goes back to, and there's a nice picture of it here. Look, this is all stuff that was sold by the Americans to the Spanish after the Second World War. Really nice pieces. As the, I can never say it properly, Oerlikon anti-aircraft gun. So that's a beautiful old piece. And this is the Polston anti-aircraft gun would be based on this design, which we saw being used in American Buffaloes during the reconquest of the Netherlands. So it's a lovely bit of kit. I've modelled one of those myself. But I think again, look at this, boom. Lovely big old flat gun there. That's the 18. And it's in lovely condition with all bits of the tractor. That really is nice. As I say, just a pervading thing with the German kit. And they had these in service for years and years after the war because they basically didn't have anything else. There's then some other galleries that aren't as interesting, to be honest. This one's all about artillery bits and bobs and optics and all that, but I'm sure it'll be of interest to someone. That's the anti-aircraft part of the museum. Well worth a look. Now we're coming into another bit here which is quite cool. This is the ammunition hall. I mean, look at how beautiful this place is. I mean, it really is a gorgeous old museum. So as it says, it's all about ammunition and artillery. So there's every kind of shell you can possibly imagine. I found this really interesting. So this is all just small arms ammunition, and you've got everything here. Let's have a look. From your common kind of 9mm going up to where we are today with our 5.56s. Where are you? 5.56s. 7.62s. This one all around, all that kind of stuff. I think there's a 303 up there somewhere as well. So that's really nice. And as I say, just about every kind of shell and rocket and grenade you can possibly imagine. All kinds of different grenades. Oh look, there's a surprise. More German kit. More potato mashers, some Mills bombs as well. Lovely. And there's quite a wicked looking display here of mines and anti-personnel stuff that Dennis and Sean would know all about, but pretty horrific. Again, a beautiful gallery and very few visitors. I mean, this is a Saturday. I think it's just somewhere that people wouldn't normally come into. Yeah, and this is a whole area to do with optics. So this is all kind of coastal defences, most of this stuff. So you recognise some of this as being German kind of traditional kit here, 1938. And all the paraphernalia that goes with it. It's engineering stuff about bridging. Again, this is not really my world. Telecommunications, or communications as it was then. Beautiful switchboard. And all kinds of engineering stuff. Yeah, pretty cool. So here we are on the other side of the gun hall now. As I say, artillery is not hugely interesting to me, but there's some lovely pieces here. A lot of this stuff, repeating what I've said over and over again, we've got a massive mix of German and Russian stuff that was supplied during the Civil War to the two different sides. There's some lovely old World War I pieces as well. You can see kind of development. I've got a rifle in on this if the camera will pick it up. Beautiful. Yeah, a whole bunch of different bits and pieces. And if we look at this one here, I think it is. Yeah, so this is a 37. So this was the German anti-tank gun that we saw deployed throughout the Second World War. Really nice little gun. And it was probably the best in its class for the Civil War. There's a whole bunch of other modern bits in here, dropped in for good measure. So there's like a Milan over here. There's a recordless rifle mounted on a truck. And we've got over here is a Pak 40. Again, German kit, Second World War, most of which stayed in service with the Spanish Army for a great number of years after the Second World War till they could kind of modernise. I love this as well, little recordless rifle there. And there's a beautiful little Vespa there, all set up to carry one. And we have a little look. Helmets that were worn. They look very sort of German in there. With the nationalists look very German, with the Republicans looking very un-German. So a really interesting hall again. If artillery is your thing, this would be absolutely fascinating. Look at the size of some of these guns are absolutely gorgeous. And a mountain howitzer, so that's nice. Love the markings on that. And that brings us to the end of the gun hall. And I can't really help myself, this Stug is just absolute beauty. They've opened up the hatches at the front here as well, so you can see the driver car. I've modelled a number of these, so it's really good to see the thing up close. I love the hogshead. That's not the hogshead, that's a different version, but it's that same principle. Lovely welding and some beautiful, beautiful detail on this. So I'm just going to take a quick walk around it because it's worth it. It's worth the really up close look. You only have a look inside like these people are. The wooden blocks, quite common. Jack. All this kind of stuff is really common on the German vehicles. You probably modelled it a load of it yourself, and the headlight as well, which is always a bugger to model when you're trying to do one of those. But it's good to see it covered up. So there you go. Beauty of the Stug. Probably the T26 aside, this is probably the highlight of the day for me.